episode of the B Movie Club. It is our 100th episode. What? Thank you for joining us. This week we'll be discussing the 1988 comedy classic, Coming to America, starring Eddie Murphy, Arsenio Hall, James Earl Jones, John Amos. The list goes on and on. For those of you joining us for the first time, let me just say welcome. It's almost 2 years ago I sat back and decided to stroke my ego a little bit and do a weekly movie review show where we discuss movies that I enjoy that maybe you've never heard of or have any interest to know anything about. But I enjoy it, and I hope you enjoy it just a little bit. So there you go. For those of you joining us for the first time, what we do, each week I'll post online what movie we'll be doing based upon maybe your suggestions, your ideas, and then you can watch it streaming instantly on Netflix, or if you happen to own the movie in your expansive video library, you could watch it there. Then send me in your favorite scenes, favorite quotes, anything else you'd like to know about the show, and we'll talk about it. Okay? So there you go. You can contact me on our page on Facebook, Original B Movie Club. Don't forget to click the like little thumbs up thing on there. Also, you can reach me through the YouTube page, KD9575. It's my initials and my birthday, so mark that on your calendar. Also, you can reach me on Twitter at KD9575. Please spread the word. Tell your homies, anybody else who might be interested in B movies. It's called the B Movie Club. We do B movies, but very early on it quickly became just kind of any movie I feel like doing. Any movies that you'd like me to do, I'm definitely down to check out. At least a few movies people suggested I'd never even seen before. I rushed out, watched them, and to my chagrin agreed to discuss them on the show. So there you go. Coming to America. In this movie, Prince Akeem is a prince in a ultra-wealthy African nation who has just turned 21, and as part of tradition, he is to meet his queen-to-be, a woman that he will marry. He's never met her before, but Prince Akeem is kind of a more progressive African prince than maybe we're used to. He does not just want to be kind of shown who his wife is. He wants to meet a woman, date her, I guess, buy her flowers, and then grow to love her, and then propose to her, things that many Americans take for granted. So he whisks off with his friend Semi, played by Arsenio Hall, to Queens, New York, because where else would a king-to-be go to find a beautiful bride than a place called Queens? That was one of the little jokes early in the movie. So he goes there, but they want to keep a low profile because if you've ever watched Millionaire Matchmaker, like I do, oftentimes these very wealthy guys want to downplay how wealthy they are because they want the ladies to appreciate them for who they really are, not just for their wealth and stature and all that good stuff. So they live in a crappy apartment in a horrible section of Queens. They get a job working at a fast food restaurant called McDowell's. Along the way, they are going to nightclubs, trying to meet women, church events. They finally meet the daughter of the owner of the McDowell's restaurant, and sparks kind of hit off. Sadly, she is engaged to an American prince, if you will, the Prince of Soul Glow, which is a Jerry curl activator. So he's got some money, but she's not interested in that. She's not impressed with that. Over the course of the movie, she gets to know Akeem, who again she feels is a poor African student, not a super wealthy African prince. I don't want to spoil everything for you. There's a lot of layers to this, a lot of things going on. Okay? But needless to say, it's a happy ending. Everything works out the way it's supposed to. So there you go. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. I definitely feel it's like at least the funniest comedy of the 80s, if not through all recorded history. Okay? It's definitely not for everybody. It's an R-rated movie. There are scenes of nudity, and because it is an Eddie Murphy movie, there's an F-bomb every 2.3 seconds. So be advised going in this. Don't sit down with your children, right before you have Easter brunch to watch Coming to America. Just some advice, okay? Do with it what you will. Eddie Murphy, of course, plays Prince Hakeem. At this stage of the game, Eddie Murphy's a huge, huge star. Megastar. And Arsenio Hall plays his buddy. Shocking, I know. Because they're buddies in real life. That's probably how he got the role. Arsenio Hall was able to parlay this role. Because if you want to know a little bit about Arsenio Hall, he actually started out as a magician. There you go, before kind of shifting into acting. He'd done a few things. He was like in Amazon Women in the Moon and some things like that. But this was his first kind of, hey, look at Arsenio. And he was able to parlay this into his hit talk show, The Arsenio Hall Show. So there you go. Very popular in the late 80s and early 90s. So you got that. James Earl Jones plays the king, King Jafi Jafur of the African nation of Zamunda. Not a real place, by the way. Sidney Poitier actually was considered for this role at one point. So there you go. Another thing that I found out is the guy, James Earl Jones, plays the king. His wife, Queen Aeolian, the actress is Madge Sinclair, and they actually were the voices of the king and the queen from The Lion King that came out like 15 years later. So there you go. It's a small world after all. So there you go. John Amos, of course. Remember him from Good Times? He plays Mr. McDowell's, the guy who owns the McDowell's fast food joint. So there you go. Another thing, John Amos, James Earl Jones, and Madge Sinclair were all in Roots that came out, obviously, about 15 years earlier. So there you go. And there are a lot of references to Roots in this movie. Like people constantly refer to Akeem as Kunta Kinte and things like that. So there you go. See, it's a small world. It all comes together. Zamunda, like I said, not a real place. There's some conflicting accounts of where that name came from. Eddie Murphy says the name comes from a part of a Richard Pryor comedy act. Where he mentions like an African nation named Zamunda, and that's where he got the name from. Another thing said that one of the producers, Bob Zmuda, it came from his name. Instead of Zmuda, it was Zamunda. So I don't know. It's all very complicated. Basically, this movie was directed by John Landis, and he'd worked with Eddie Murphy 5 or 6 years prior on Trading Places, another B-movie classic, if you know what I'm saying. But he had a much different experience working with Eddie Murphy at this time. He said working with Eddie Murphy in Trading Places, he was young, he was curious, he was full of energy, he was eager to please. But by the time Coming to America came around, John Landis literally described Eddie Murphy as the pig of the world. Because at this point, he had everybody basically laying down and kissing his feet. So now he, was hard to work with, let's say. Although John Landis admits that Eddie Murphy's performance in this movie is dynamite. My word, not his. And actually, after this movie, they vowed they would never work together again. Of course, in 1993, they reunited when both of their careers were kind of a little bit on the rocks for that ultra super hit, that critically acclaimed masterpiece, Beverly Hills Cop 3. Yeah, very sad. C'est la vie. They say that the original idea for Coming to America came from a 25-page breakdown written by Eddie Murphy himself, and then 2 screenwriters under John Landis's umbrella actually wrote the screenplay for it. However, after this movie became a big hit, another comedian / screenwriter actually sued them all, including the studio, claiming that he turned in and actually optioned a script 10 years prior for a similar kind of African prince coming to America and wacky hijinks ensue. And they actually settled with him, despite the fact John Landis says that's baloney, I don't know this guy. But they settled with him. He got his name in the credits from there on, and they actually gave him 18% of those profits. So there you go. That's quite a bit, as far as I'm concerned. Other things I can tell you, like I said, John Landis directed this. Another thing he directed, which you might remember, was Michael Jackson's video for Thriller. Now, if you watch close, there's a scene in the beginning of the movie, when they're about to introduce Akeem's queen-to-be, when all the African dancers come out and do an African dance. Okay, not an African dance, first of all. It's actually it has aspects from the Thriller dance. And if you watch close, they speeded up the tempo quite a bit, but it's still a lot of that kind of thing. But you like that dance, by the way? They sped it up so it's hard. It's not so you'd notice. So there you go. What else can I tell you about this movie? Like I said, quite a bit of the movie takes place at this McDowell's fast food restaurant. They actually had to get permission from McDonald's home office to kind of make a false McDonald's. And they received the permission from them. And they actually took like a Wendy's restaurant that was closed down for repairs and kind of fixed it up to make it look like this McDowell's. Sadly, I guess the McDonald's home office didn't tell all the little franchises of McDonald's. So literally, there was a real McDonald's not far, and they sent down their lawyers with cameras to take pictures and how they're going to sue everybody. So there you go. Another little thing, which you may or may not notice, another Trading Places reference. Later in the movie, Akeem gives a bag of money to two homeless men. Those homeless men were, of course, Randolph and Mortimer Duke, who were the super wealthy guys from Trading Places who lost everything on the stock exchange. So there you go. This movie was actually the third most financially successful movie the year it came out in 1988. It was a huge hit. It received generally favorable reviews, and right now, I know this is kind of a bummer, 68% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. I think that is ridiculous. I mean, granted, it's not Lawrence of Arabia. It's a comedy with Eddie Murphy, okay? But it's hilarious. It is one of the most eminently, I don't even know if that's a word. It's very quotable. It's the most quotable movie that I still drop quotes from this movie all the time. It is bloody brilliant. In my opinion. What else could I tell you? This was actually the first movie where Eddie Murphy played multiple characters, so it's kind of a novelty. Eddie Murphy plays, of course, Prince Akeem. He also plays Jackson Heights' own Randy Watson. He plays the barber. He plays the old Jewish man in the barber shop. Arsenio Hall even plays a bunch of roles in this movie. Again, not something that had been done a lot up to this point, and actually became kind of Eddie Murphy's calling card. From like pretty much every movie after that, he plays 15 different roles or undergoes 15 transformations to the point where it's obviously not that noteworthy anymore. C'est la vie, okay? This movie was actually nominated for 2 Academy Awards, specifically with costume design and effects like that. So, it's a great movie. Up and down, it is the bomb. Cuba Gooding Jr., if you look really closely, this was his first screen role. He as the barber patron. Doesn't say anything. He's sitting there getting his hair cut by Eddie Murphy. So there you go. Like I said, it currently has 68% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, and I think it's got to be closer to at least 90, in my opinion. It is still streaming instantly on Netflix, so rush out and check it out if you have not seen it. Send me in your favorite scenes, favorite quotes, comments, questions, anything else you'd like to get off your chest, and I'll discuss it on the show. Next week, I'm going to go back to kind of an action crime genre. We're going to do Quentin Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs. It is streaming instantly on Netflix, so if you have not seen it, I highly recommend it. Again, send me your questions, comments, and we'll talk about it on the show. Don't forget to like me on Facebook, Original B Movie Club. Don't forget to subscribe on our page on Facebook. Absolutely free, okay? No collectors will come knocking on your door, I promise. Also, you can reach me on Twitter at KD9575 and spread the word, won't you? As you know, I end every episode with a totally out of context quote, and here it is. See, I'm washing lettuce. Soon I'll be on fries. Then the grill. A year or two, I'll be assistant manager, and that's when the big bucks start rolling in. Thank you for joining us. Next week, Reservoir Dogs. Spread the word, won't you? Be well.